So I already had to subject myself to numerous insults and comments from my co-hosts here, private messages from fans about. But fuck it. Anyways, I'm Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Yes, we're going to be covering Churchill Downs the week before the Derby. There wasn't really much going on this weekend. We're in that kind of lull before the Derby, so I thought it'd be fun to take a look at a sequence and just kind of get everyone's thoughts, especially on a track that I think only two of us really play regularly. One person who I know does not like to play this track, Mr. Mark Capitan. Mark, you hate Churchill Downs.
I hate Churchill Downs. Mainly hate what Churchill Downs is doing to the horse racing industry. Them and the Stronach Group are out to end horse racing, even though that's how they make their money. So, not my favorite place to play. Terrible rebate track, and honestly, a track that besides big days, I'm just not that great at.
Caleb, you also hate Kentucky.
I hate Churchill, and I like Keeneland. Keeneland has really hated me this year, so I've kind of left that one be. But yeah, Churchill is not my favorite. It's not even a track I play it 3 times a year pretty much. Derby Day being one of them, and then usually Stephen Foster or Clark, and then whenever Josh makes me do it for some bullshit stream when nothing else is going on. So here we are.
Brian, save me.
I can't save you. This card's garbage. However, Churchill Downs, despite the fact that rebates are horrible, despite the fact that Caleb hates them, usually offer great value in a lot of their pools because the pools are inflated because they have a loyal following, and those of us in the Midwest have nothing else to gamble on.
Yeah, I mean, what are we going to gamble on? Hawthorne?
Indiana Grand. Indiana Grand is a wonderful track.
Did it run on Saturdays?
Not anymore.
Speaking of which, owned by Churchill.
John Massey saying supporting a track that's closing Arlington down. I know it hurts. I am going to be at Arlington opening day though on Oaks Day, so that'll be fun. But
you mean the last opening day?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, probably like 90. I'll say it's about 95% chance it's the last opening day.
I'm going to check my mailbox. Maybe the invite's still in there. I don't know.
What? Dude, like you could even get off at this point.
I'm going to Indiana Grand on Monday for the record, and was debating Friday for Arlington. But since you're going, maybe I'll wait.
I don't even know like what the attendance thing is going to be there. I had my brother's been going to opening day probably every year for the past, I don't know, probably like 6 or 7 years, with his brother-in-law, but and like a couple other gambling buddies, but so just like last year we were going to go, but obviously for certain reasons that was not possible. So this year he just kind of asked me, he's like, hey, do you want to go if I can get tickets? And I was like, sure. And so first thing I told my new job was, hey, I need a half day on this day, even though I just started last week, but they were cool with it. So
think it's
But,
gonna be weird. It's gonna be weird with no general admission at all. I'd be curious to see how they funnel the fans through the facility.
you can buy a bench.
Right. And I'm just curious what they're gonna do with the spacing out, because it'll be interesting to see how Illinois handles it.
Jay says, "Hey, at least they take the money from the horse players and the horsemen, so they are equal opportunity."
But I mean, now if they were to only put up like a 200-foot tall horse statue, that would, that'd be wonderful.
Hey, yeah, Pegasus. But yeah, so I guess before we jump into this card that Brian has deemed terrible, have you guys looked at anything for tomorrow? Is there anything that you guys are kind of looking or excited to play tomorrow? Like I haven't looked yet if like Keeneland's closing day has got anything or anything interesting tomorrow.
I haven't capped it yet. Belmont was honestly fun today, but it was pretty typical spring Belmont and fairly predictable. I am pretty excited to take a look at Keeneland tomorrow, though, just because closing day, you'll get inflated pools, mandatory payouts, all that kind of fun stuff that I like to go after.
I just took a look at Lone Star right now because there's a horse that was like 10 points faster than everybody else and was 6-1 on the morning line and went off at even money, and I passed, and the horse just didn't run a step. So thank God. Caleb, have you looked at anything for tomorrow?
I just pulled the forms. I really haven't had a chance to look at anything. It's been a very busy 2 weeks, and I haven't had that much time to look at really anything. So
tomorrow's your day off, though, right?
It should be, but I'm working. So. But yeah, I haven't looked to answer your question. I hear there's a couple of nice races at Keeneland, and Ryder Dave said Santa Anita has a few prices that might come in, but I haven't looked.
So should we just call you Brian Jr.?
Yeah, I guess that works.
I just pulled up Keeneland, took a look. Bewitched, the Bewitch is the feature tomorrow, and that race is actually pretty loaded with a lot of horses that Caleb hates. So it's always a good one to take a look at.
Oh, no, fair. That was going to be my intro about the 12 furlong race and how much Caleb loves Delika.
Yeah, I was going to say Delika's in the race. Caleb needs to set this one up for us.
I don't really hate Delika. I mean, she's a hard horse to trust, and she's burned me a few times, but she's not up there in the Saddler's Joy fan club or anything.
Wait, why is there a PP for the 20? Oh, because tomorrow's the 23rd. Because Josh can't do math. I was like, what the hell? Let me take a look. I'm pulling the PPs right now.
I'll tell you what. I would say California Queen's in there who had some excuses last out, and from what I heard, just didn't really like Gulfstream. So that horse, I mean, it's Chad and Gaff, so you're probably not going to get a great price there. Warlike Goddess kind of jumps off the paper at everybody after that really impressive Orchid win. Threw back a real big fig there, so that horse should be super interesting. And then you have some other sort of slight outsiders that I would need to dig a little deeper. Josh didn't give any good prep time here, but that might be super interesting in there.
Dominga, I feel like that horse owes me money. Where the hell did I bet that horse at?
If you look at the whole pick six, the whole sequence is going to be juicy. I mean, before scratches, there's 3 turf races, and there's some deep fields there. I mean, just looking quickly, I think race 9, you end up seeing a bunch of people trying to single something to get home, and that's going to be a good pick 6.
Josh, I just will let you know in the feature you're going to single Delika, guaranteed.
Unless Louis Size is aboard.
She's going to get so stupid loose in that race.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
I thought the same thing last time out in the Tom Benson Memorial and summer at Saratoga or whatever, I think, came up. And
yeah, let's not talk about that horse, because that horse is talk about horse I can't get on the right side of, man.
Well, what were you on? Were you on her today when she tossed? Who'd she toss at the start? Right? She ran today, right? Am I just imagining that? Didn't she run today and toss the jock at the start?
I think that's
the other Saratoga horse.
Yeah. There's like 5 of them running right now.
I'm sure John Massey will correct us here.
Looks like John Massey's already at Oaklawn. He's left us behind.
Yeah, 10 races at Oaklawn. Man, it's hard to bet Oaklawn when there's turf racing anywhere else. But I know, Caleb, you've turned it around at Oaklawn, but then I think today you swore it off again.
No, Oaklawn has been very good to me. All meet for sure. I'm up pretty big at Oaklawn, which is nice. But today was tough. I mean, the late pick 5 paid like 36 grand, I think. So when you have those kind of days, it's tough to string anything together. And it was just, speed was really good. It was tough to make up ground today. And, the horses would make up just enough ground to trick me into betting off the pace horses again, only for speed to hold the next race. So it was a tough day. I'll probably be Oaklawn tomorrow, and then maybe dabble Belmont, Keeneland, Santa Anita, depending what I have time for.
Yeah, Mark, I actually really like Saez's mount in this race, Delta's Kingdom.
Yeah.
Delta's Kingdom just looks like I'm going to say this word, and I know I'm going to get shit for it, but it looks like the classiest horse in this field. So.
Yeah, but is she as fast as somebody like Warlike Goddess, or even Delika?
I haven't looked at time for her. I've only looked at Brisnet, but she looks okay on Brisnet. But
Domingo also looks pretty good in that race.
Dude, where did I bet Dominga?
Probably in that Fairgrounds. I think she's coming out of that. Wasn't that one of the feature days down at Fairgrounds?
Yeah, maybe it was
there
that.
a lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she finished second.
Yeah, to what, Summer in Saratoga?
Yeah.
One of the 6 Saratoga horses.
Yeah, I think I got Dominga and Delika mixed up. Yeah. Yeah, Domingo was the one who I needed. But yeah. Anyways, let's take a look at this Churchill card. Kind of a little preview for next week, where we get we're gonna really get into the shit next week with Derby Day, Oaks Day, and gonna be all things Churchill Downs there. But yeah, I always like these night cards. If for no other reason than the fact that playing I know you guys are probably going to say, well, Churchill is not high caliber, but playing like a good track at night is it's something that just doesn't happen. So it's kind of fun.
That Sam Houston is not a good track.
I mean, Sam Houston's a really good track, but I'm saying the class of horses that you get here. So
you're implying that Los Alamitos is not a good track? I mean, they have a $2 million race there at night.
Yeah, and Mr. Stephen Fox is already asking Wednesday, Thursday stream next week, or what's the plan? I don't know yet. We haven't talked about it yet. I think we'll probably play it by ear. I think Wednesday, Thursday will probably work out best, but we'll see.
Is it only me, or is it kind of crazy that the Derby's in 9 days? Like, it doesn't feel like it's that soon, but it's right here.
It's an early Derby this year, obviously, because just how how it fell. But man, did it! Yeah, it felt like the preps just flew by this year, and we're all of a sudden getting run over by the Derby. Agreed.
Yeah, and it was just I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's just like every other year or what, but I know Essential Quality is the short price favorite going to be at post time, but I don't know, the horse doesn't really excite me. I feel like you could poke a lot of holes in it, even though the horse just wins all the time. So I don't know. I'm not. Maybe it's just a lack of excitement this year too. I don't know. Am I just imagining that, or what do you think, Brian?
See,
Are you excited?
I like Essential Quality, but I'm not excited. I think it's a short race, and I'm still diving deep to try and find prices underneath. And I don't know. Maybe after Tuesday comes and we start talking about Derby, I'm so tired of being on Twitter and seeing everybody's opinion on, known agenda and Essential Quality. Everybody's an expert, right? Everybody's watching these morning workouts like they actually know what they're watching. So I don't know. Let's just see. Let's just get to it, right? I mean, move along and let the hype build, and then we'll be disappointed probably with an Essential Quality win by 4.
Yeah, but I think Essential Quality is going to be probably your favorite and be a fairly deserving one. I do agree with Bri. I think this year does not have. I think so many of the major feeder tracks did not have that major horse that came out and blew you away. And you normally want that monster that comes out of Florida, or you want the some of the other scenes where you expect a really quality horse to come out. If you look at a lot of the preps, they came back really slow. Figs came back terrible. Just a lot of horses that, they won their last out and they did what they needed to do. But man, it feels like a really soft year for Derby quality.
Who even won the Florida Derby? I don't even remember.
Known Agenda.
Is that like the horse that time forgot or what? Like, I haven't heard anybody talk about
Known
Agenda at all.
They ran like an 89 buyer. The horse is just no way, shape, or form fast enough.
You got a 94, but I mean,
is it a 94? Okay, yeah.
In any year, that's not fast enough. But in this year, is it not fast enough? Essential Quality is your favorite, and he only ran a 99. So it's one of the. I think he ran a 97 last out. I think he actually regressed a little bit in the Bluegrass. So it's kind of one of those things like. In a normal year, I feel like Essential Quality would be the kind of board hitter horse you want to use underneath. But in this year, he sort of feels like the horse that's going to, be 5-2.
It does feel that way. I mean, I've been looking at the thoroughgraphs for the Derby, and I like the pattern that Essential Quality has coming into it. But if you use thoroughgraphs, you could look at Known Agenda and say, okay, this horse should probably regress a little bit, and you're like, okay, what am I going to do? And as you go through, I know you're talking about the buyer speed figure, and what they ran. Everybody's looking at that, and thoroughgraphs has this race a lot closer, I think, than the buyer speed figure is letting on. So. It'll be curious to see how the actual horses draw in and what the pace picture might look like, who's coming from the 20 hole, etc. But, I should be more excited based on how the race looks on the sheets.
It does look pretty wide open, I think, because, I think that, right now, gun to my head, I would probably take Rock Your World. But I feel like if you told me that Rock Your World or Essential Quality didn't win, I would probably need like 8 horses, because I feel like once you kind of get past that top tier, I feel like there's and it's not like there's that much separating, because I think Rock Your World ran like 100 buyer last out. I think Essential Quality's got a 99, and then you got a bunch of horses with like 98s and 97s in there. So I think it is pretty close, and it's gonna be pretty wide open. But
Howard Charlie's the horse you haven't mentioned that ran 100. So
he did?
Yeah. And I think you've just named the 3 horses that probably win this 95% of the time.
Yeah. And it looks like Elliot's got some breeding. I know we talked a little Derby last week, but Essential Quality, Super Stock, Rock Your World, Highly Motivated, Helium, Dynamic One. And then Get Her Number.
Yeah, Get Her Number does have really good breeding, but breeding only gets you so far. There's been a lot of horses that have had really great breeding that didn't do anything on the track or just weren't playing fast enough. So,
you see a lot of hype right now on social media about the Chad horse. It seems like people want to say, oh, Highly Motivated is going to be the wise guy horse this year. So far, I've heard of 4 different wise guy horses, and I'm not sure which one's the wise one.
I think the wise guy horse I've been hearing is Obezos. It seems like everybody's talking that he's gotten to Churchill and been working really well across the surface. And that's coming from, I know the Twitter sphere is a little bit hard at this at times, but from people that I actually trust who know what they're talking about, we're saying that he looks like he's working very well. So that seems to be the wise guy horse I'm hearing people talking about.
That's what I've heard too. And it's a horse I really like to hit the board.
John Massey saying that he thought Bezos was the wise guy horse. Sorry,
that's what I've been hearing. Yeah, no, you're good. I'm just saying I agree. I don't think he can win really, but I do think he can hit the board for sure. And it just depends on the price. There is a price where those horses, or play against even underneath. But if you can get double digits on him at least, which I think you should, he could be a nice horse to round out or try.
Hey, who was the wise guy horse a couple of years ago? Everybody said was looking great coming into the Derby, and then just as a 3-year-old sucked, and then as a 4-year-old was decent.
Vino Rosso?
Yes, Vino Rosso. That's what this hype of Obesos reminds me of, is lots of loyal people behind this horse, and it, a horse that doesn't have the speed to get out front, who's going to probably be coming in the second half mile. So it's kind of interesting that you say that, Caleb, because a lot of people that liked Vino Rosso seem to be jumping on this bandwagon now. I'm not sure it's because it's a off the pace type, or if it's just a horse that might be maturing in the fourth month of the year.
Yeah, the other thing with Obesos that I don't know if you want to call it inside info or not, but the ownership group sold 25% ownership in him this week. So somebody selling a massive chunk of a horse the week before the Derby doesn't actually bode very well for him winning. So I find him super interesting. And if the information I'm getting about the sale is correct, that's kind of tips something, but we'll see.
Well, yeah, I mean, Monomoy Girl lost after she ran under my racehorse.
I was just going to say, should we buy Caleb a 1/25 of a share for Obesos? Is that available for $70?
Please do. The commemorative keychain if he wins the Derby.
Yeah, funny story about Obesos. I know we've already probably talked him into the ground, but when I was in Vegas, or I don't remember if I was flying the night before, the morning I landed, but like pretty early last time I was in Vegas, I got a message from a friend of the show, Joe. Joe messages me. He's on Discord and Twitter, and he's like, "Hey, can you get down to Circa and put a bet in on Obesos?" And this was before the Louisiana Derby, which I think was like his big race. Like we finished like second or third or whatever. And he's like, "Hey, can you put a future bet on the Derby for him?" And I told him, I was like, they just pulled everything because that was when Concert Tour, whoever scratched. So they pulled all the futures. And so, not Concert Tour. Who was the other big? Was it Concert Tour? It was one of the big Baffert horses had just been pulled off the trail. And so they pulled all the futures. And so by the time he was like 100-1 or something. And then by the time they came back up after that, he was like 30-1 or something. So like his value got thirded in the span of a couple of hours. So, but yeah, Brian and Elliot are both actually talking about a horse. I don't know if I brought him up last week, but Sainthood. I thought he ran really well in that synthetic, the Jeff Ruby Stakes, and he like ran into all the trouble, which I'm sure everyone's going to see. So this horse is probably going to play like super short underneath, but he was interesting.
Is that the Pletcher horse?
Yeah.
Yep.
The Pletcher horse that Corrales rode.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jason, is Caddo River running in the Derby? Have they decided if they're going to run them yet or not?
I saw somewhere that they were, actually. I don't know if that's true. I saw it in a different Discord, but I don't know if that's true.
Yeah. And then John Massey, of course, saying that in the normal year, there'd be a drugged up Baffert who had 3 career blowouts. Yeah, I mean, who's man?
There is, but Medina Spirit's just not that good.
Yeah, and I can't keep my Baffert straight. But was it Life is Good? Ran like 107 buyer or something, and then was off the trail a little bit after that.
Yeah.
So, but oh well, is what it is. But I think we'll get. I think it'll be a good race. I think like Mark was kind of saying, there's probably 3 main contenders, but if I don't think the second tier, which is huge, is that far behind, but it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But yeah, let's take a look at some of these races here. I know I had to twist your guys' arm to look at Churchill Downs, but race 6, we'll take a look at this late pick 5 here. Race 6, 6.5 furlongs, 3-year-olds and up. We got a N2L, which is everyone's favorite race to cap. But we got 6 horses in this race. Our morning line favorite's going to be the 3 Extreme Force at 5-2. Does look to be one of the pace horses in this race. But Brian, what did you think here?
I think the morning line's pretty good there with Extreme Force. Obviously, it's hard to go against, Asmussen and Luis combination. They're both going to be ready for this. I think the one Convection with the Eddie Keneally horse or Canale horse with Tyler aboard, I think the horse is going to end up taking a lot of money. Look like the horse had some speed last out, or but I question what the horse is coming from, right? The horse is coming from a $30,000 maiden claimer and now comes up to, last out winner, broke the maiden last out. That's always been a big no-no for me on a horse that might very well be 9-5 come post time. But, I'm trying to make an argument for somebody else because that's, usually what I do, right? I try to find that horse that nobody else is going to be on. And I was like, all right, what about number 6? Caleb's favorite trainer has an entry here. Chris Landeros aboard. The Rye Humor is going to be coming from off the pace. And some of these horses, you look at what they've done, there's no real speed. So you almost have to think he's a babe, with Corey Lannery aboard. He's got to kind of go like he did three back. Convection's going to be there. Speed, Extreme Force is going to be there. Maybe Rye Humor can come up. I don't want to say off the pace, but, a nice stalking trip, a smart trick by Chris Landeros. And he's got a lot of haters, but this is Churchill Downs, somewhere where he usually does decent.
The face that Caleb just made when you said Chris Landeros was priceless.
No, I just never heard the phrase, smart trip by Chris Landeros put together before.
Put together in a sentence.
But
that's not what happens.
But see, and here's the thing: you guys don't play Churchill. Landeros, if there's ever a track he's going to race well at, it's at Churchill. He usually does decent. He's not going to win the jockey, competition at all. But he usually gets his fair share of wins at the meet.
Yeah, and important to note, I know John Massey asked about the forecast for Saturday night. Looks like a rainy afternoon, likely off the turf. Yeah, it looks like they're going to get a ½ inch, so it'll be interesting. We'll keep an eye on the weather. I'm capping for on the turf. If it comes off the turf, I probably just maybe won't play anything bigger than a double or anything like that here. But
they're calling for a ½ inch of rain. They're not racing again until Tuesday or the following Tuesday. So I would think that they would have to, and they're only calling for a ½ inch. My gut says this stays on, but we'll see.
I mean, there's only one turf race on the whole card too, so you probably
there's usually only card two races.
Yeah, that's
card is that
Churchill.
Yeah,
beautiful turf course, and they run on it, once a month.
You're talking the same organization that scratched half the race at Arlington off the turf because it might rain on a Wednesday.
Right.
Yeah. So Brian talked about this one horse Convection. I actually really like Convection in here. It's an angle I hate. I hate a horse coming out of a maiden, especially a maiden claiming race, and stepping up in class to claiming non-winners. But horse should be have controlling pace in here. It should get pretty loose. And definitely has a lot of speed. It would depend on how speed is playing, but did they just run this one at Keeneland and find a spot because the owners are local and they wanted to see their horse run, and now they're actually stepping up to where the horse belongs. Horse won for fun, won by 5 lengths last time out, and just kind of drew away. So that fig even could be light. Horse takes even a small step forward here, should be an absolute handful. And I know Brian likes to be contrarian. I thought the contrarian horse for me was the 2 here. He's a babe. Tomlinson horse. Obviously something went wrong in that last running in June at Churchill. Took a long layoff. I would expect an effort more like that 2-back race, and should be able to sit off the speed of the 1. And I think this is the horse you want, that sort of sitting that stalking trip and closing. talking 5-1, I would much rather take that than Brian's 3-1 on because there's a lot of horses in here that are 1 for 9, 1 for 13 types who've proven that they don't want to win. This is a little more of a lightly raced horse that maybe there's still some upside here. Something obviously went wrong on the last, and I'll pay to see what this one shows up with.
Yeah. Go ahead, Josh.
Go ahead. Well, yeah, I'm not going to really talk like super hard on this one, but I pretty much thought that the 1 was the horse to beat in this race. I thought the 1 was the 1 could just get out there, get loose, and just win for fun. I mean, if I were to pick another horse to use as a B, it would be the 3, which I know is kind of chalky, but I think that those are really the 2 horses with a chance to win here. But I think that it's not even close. I think the 1 might. If I'm playing this pick 5, I'll probably just single the 1 and move on.
Yeah, I don't like this race at all. I wouldn't play this race if it wasn't for the stream. But what I will say is, I kind of like a horse we haven't talked about much as I can like a horse anyway in this race, which is the 5. The horse in his debut didn't really show a whole lot against maiden special weight, probably in over his head. Comes back and tries turf, going a mile. I mean, he flashes a little bit of speed for half a mile and then kind of runs mid-pack the rest of the way. They finally get him on the right surface at the right distance and at the right class level, and he responds with a pretty nice win. I think that this horse wants to sprint, and he wants to sprint on dirt. I think that I don't play a lot of fairgrounds, but I play enough fairgrounds to know that it's pretty tough to close. This horse did come from about 4 or 5 lengths off. It was a little bit green. He jumped some tire tracks late, but still ended up getting the job done. And if the 1 and the 2 and the 3 all end up kind of going on the lead, I do think this is probably the closer I want the most of. I hate betting these last up maiden breakers, but that's pretty much like over half the field. So out of all of them, the 1's probably the likeliest winner. He's probably also going to be a pretty heavy favorite, as is the 3. So I think the 5 is the one who I think gets kind of ignored and, is a horse that I would probably try to use.
It's got good old Mitchell Merle aboard as well.
Bet Mitch, get rich.
Yeah, bet Mitch, get rich. There's I thought that first race was pretty straightforward, but I did think that this next race, the 7th race, if it stays on the turf, I thought this was a very, very interesting race. It's an allowance race, mile on the turf. It's pretty decent size purse for an allowance race. And you are going to have, I believe there's like 13 horses entered, but there you got, I think, like 3?
I think 3 MTOs.
3 MTOs? Is that what it is? Yeah. So you got 10 horses entered. It looks like your morning line favorite is going to be the 1, Attorney Tim, at 5-2. And I don't remember if did I like this horse. I got to look at my notes.
This was the horse that we were talking about this in kind of pre-production meeting. And I was saying this line has to be a joke or something, because you're giving me 5-2 on a horse that has been beaten multiple times at roughly this class level. Actually, is taking a slight step up in class here, just on purse, and is 1 for 15 lifetimes. Figs make a ton of sense. It looks great on paper, but man, this horse just absolutely hates to win, and has been bet in quite a few of those races as well. You look at the odds and been super short. This is the kind of horse that I really want no part of at a short price. I know we were having this conversation. What do you do with this type of horse that is going to take money? You feel is like a defensive use, but I don't know if you either toss Attorney Tim or if you make this horse kind of a defensive B. Sayas gets up. I get it. He's been riding lights out lately, but man, that just isn't a horse I want a lot of.
Yeah, and I don't even have this horse written down on here. I actually took 3 horses in this race. One of them is a short price. It is the 3 Tool Ferris. I couldn't read the name from my other screen. Tool Ferris. I thought Tool Ferris's last race, was actually pretty good. Did finish 4th there, but Advanced Strategy did come back to win next out. So I was pretty interested in this horse. I thought the Fig looks very good. Looks like this horse has improved steadily since coming from England here. So I think the 3 makes sense. I mean, not like super thrilled to take a short price on a Corey Lanery horse on the turf, but I think that on the Figs, the 3 does make a lot of sense. Another horse that I did like was the 7, not Morley, who you like, Mark, but Morey, who William Morey, who was just absolutely destroying Turfway this meet, and this horse once again, the surface switch at Keeneland that last time out, that race came back pretty decent, and there's if you even go back to his Santa Anita races, I mean those races win. And you're getting a nice price here at 7-1. Now I know you're going back like 3 years and trained by Phil D'Amato, who is like the Bob Baffert of turf over there. But the horse came back 3rd time out and ran a similar figure to what he did in 2018. So I thought that horse made a lot of sense. And then I know another horse that I think you liked, Mark, but maybe I am misremembering, is the 9 Bullseye Bun. I think that there's a chance that he just gets out in the lead and just goes. You got Drayden aboard, who I think, although his stats don't show it, I think he can ride perfectly fine on the turf. I think that this horse is just going to get out and go. And I don't really feel like there's any other really established turf speed in this race. You got the horse like the 6 maybe has got some dirt speed, but we'll see what happens. I know, Mark, we talked a little bit about this horse because the breeding on this horse is just nuts. Gershwin here, and it is a Godolphin horse. So maybe somebody knows something, or Stidham is 21% first on grass, so maybe something happens with there. But I just think that the 9 might have a shot at getting loose here. So I got the 3, the 7, and the 9, and then I do have the 6 as kind of like a C type here. But those are kind of the horses I went with there. But what do you think, Caleb?
Yeah, I saw it pretty similar to you, Josh. The 9's actually my top pick here. I thought he ran a sneaky good race, setting a pretty fast pace at Keeneland, and it kind of fell apart. The pace scenario here is kind of wonky. There's a lot of dirt horses that are going 6 and 7 furlongs that are stretching out to a mile and trying turf. And like I could see 4 horses rush to the lead, or I could see the 9 get loose. But at 8-1, and I don't think this horse is going to get bet. I really am interested in Bullseye Bun, like you already talked about. I also like your 7, La La Land. I think that's a solid pick there. And I have a fleeting interest in the 6, Gershwin, although I can't say I'm over the top excited to bet that horse. I do think that horse makes some sense, but I would need the right price. But beyond that, I guess my biggest play is I'm kind of against the 1 and the 3. They're your morning line favorite and your second choice, I think, and they're a combined 2 for 35. Yeah, and I get it. The 3, a lot of those losses from the 3 came overseas, but I'm just not sure those Gulfstream races were super strong that she was running in. Lanery on turf doesn't do it for me at 7-2. The 1 horse just looks like she gets lost early in the races. These are favorites I want to beat, so I kind of agree with Mark about his point earlier. And I agree with a lot of the other horses you picked, Josh. The only other one I might look at is the 4 Fortuity. It's Mike Maker on the turf in Kentucky, for 3 Diamonds Farms. Gaffley's getting up, who's been surprisingly bad, especially with Maker lately. But nevertheless, maybe getting back to Churchill kind of rights the ship there. But at least he's a horse that has figs that fit and isn't 1 for 15 or 1 for 20. So he's the other one I might be a little interested in.
Yeah, and what do you think?
Yeah, I don't have much of a defection from what you guys are going with here. I think the 1, the 3 and the 1 make the most sense. I'm paid to be different from you guys, both in weight class and in looks and picks. So I'm going to sit here and say, what if we don't go with the speed? What if this race falls apart, right? And when I sit there and look at it, okay, they're calling for rain, so you're looking at turf that might be softer than we would normally have in late April in Kentucky. So with that being said, I don't mind the switch in the 3, but I think 7-2 is a little short for what I want there. Caleb hit on that. The horse is, over 7 at this distance on the turf, and this feels like the kind of race where the 7 maybe pressures the 9, or the 9 runs a crazy pace early. Obviously Drayden Van Dyke's going to be excited. Churchill is his new home. So I'm looking at maybe we start thinking about a price, and where I landed, isn't exactly a huge price, but I'm looking at the 8, the Hell or High Water. A little different. I mean, Velasquez aboard, nothing, no surprising there. It's one of those horses that, if you go back to the last 2 races he had at Turfway, it's synthetic. You can excuse it, but they were still decent performances. The horse is coming in on pretty good form. With that being said, it had a great, 2020, both at Kentucky Downs and Keeneland. So, if they do get the rain, perhaps the 8 can steal it at a decent price. But, I think you guys hit it spot on. The 3 and the 1 are probably the most likely, maybe the 4. But, looking for a price, I'll probably play the 8.
So you took the 1 for 15 shot.
Of course.
That's a you horse right there, Bri.
There's plenty of reasons to not like the favorites in this race. You want to sit there and say, the 3 is what, 1 for 20. The 1 is 1 for 15. So yes, I took the other 1 for 15. That's going to offer me a price. But, there is a ghost zapper alert out there on the 8. The horse stands to not be involved in any kind of pace scenario. When the horse did, run well, it was a moderate pace, going back to a year, 10 months ago, whatever that was, so perhaps something can happen there. And this feels like the kind of race where if you're playing a sequence, this is the race you get a price in, especially at Churchill, early in the meet. I couldn't take any of the short prices at 1 for 15. What are you going to get on the 3, 2 to 1?
I agree with you, Brian. I would take the 8 over the 1 heads up, just to chime in. I mean, I would much rather the 8.
Yeah, I would take the 8 over the 1 just on the fact of I think they have an equal chance of winning, and you're going to get paid more on your 8. I don't really want either one of them, but I would agree with you. I think Josh and I land the same horses. I think the 3 makes a lot of sense. Been a completely different horse since getting on Lasix. I'll excuse some of those losses that were overseas. Yes, the horse hasn't won in the States, but has been much faster and much more competitive, and the figures fit in here. So this one's interesting. Josh had already talked about the 9 horse that's got improving form, has improved its last couple out, and doesn't really need to step too much forward to be a player in here. And my top pick is going to be the 6. I really like Gershwin. Distorted Humor on top, APND on the bottom. Talk about being regally bred. Music Note, who's the Dam, I think was a G1 winner, if I'm remembering correctly. This is a horse that's got a ton of turf pedigree. Should be able to be forwardly placed. And Michael Stidham does really, really good work just in general. Obviously he's been getting a lot of the Godolphin horses recently. But he's a guy with a small barn that hits at a high percentage, seems to really take care of his horses and really understand them. Obviously Godolphin wants this one to be a dirt horse. That's kind of, what their focus is in the States. But I think they've gotten to the point where they said, okay, this just isn't a dirt horse. We're going to throw this one on turf. And I think if you're going to get anywhere near 10 to 1, this is an extremely interesting horse.
All right, let's take a look at chat here. Stephen Fox saying, not liking favorites, blasphemy. You chalk-eating weasel. Jay says that if 7 does come off the turf, he likes the 5 Manitowish. It's the inside speed, second off, and is 20 to 1.
The Romans horse, yes.
Yeah, that horse is interesting if it does come off. I also really like the 6 if the race comes off. Tommy, especially if it's a little sloppy, the Tommies and the 6 are pretty off the hook.
Yeah, I was going to say something, but I think I was thinking of the earlier race. There's I forgot. I think in the other race there's race 6. There's like a Tapiture or a Tonalist or something. Who was in the other race? There's a huge. A Constitution, the 3. which is like a huge turf or off. So if it does come up sloppy, it's a big sloppy breeding there. All right. Well, let's move on then. Let's get here through. Oh God. Oh yeah. This is if the last race didn't piss Caleb off enough, I think this might have been the race where Caleb, I think, was thinking about like just going to sleep instead of doing this. We got a mile and a quarter here, maiden race. So not exactly something that we see every day
For a good reason.
Yeah, for a good reason. Yeah, we got a real short price horse here in Queen Bourbon, the 5 horse for Ian Wilkes and Brian Hernandez Jr. But Caleb, since I know that you're just like dying to talk about this race, I figured I'd let you go first.
Yeah, like in the private chat earlier, Brian said like, "Oh, like how's the card look?" And I'm like, "It's like the most Churchill Downs card ever. Like it's got an allowance horse, like no, it was a claiming race full of horses that all look the same, and then a turf race full of horses that don't want to win, and then a maiden race that should never be carded in the first place. You know, basically trying to recoup investments from people who spent way too much money on their horses and now don't have anywhere to run they can win. I'm looking at you, Zuri, number 6. But beyond that, yeah, this race is terrible. The 5 Queen Bourbon is certainly a contender, but I haven't the slightest idea why this horse is 6-5, other than this field just looks bad, I guess. But I mean, I think this horse should maybe be like 2-1 or 5-2. 6-5 feels crazy to me anyway on this horse. I do think the horse probably needs used, but I like 2 horses better. My top pick was actually the 3, Honor Hop. It's Leparoux in Kentucky, so he can probably get the job done here. They tried this horse on turf for a long time, and it didn't run poorly, but this horse is definitely bred to go all day. Honor Code, he's obviously out of AP Indy on top, with then Dynaformer on bottom. So, and this what really may just be a like war of attrition. I think this horse can stay close enough to the pace to not get lost, and then should be able to run him down late, I think. So that's the horse I kind of like the most, with a passing interest as well in the 8, Doro Forever. So the breeding on this horse is also really great, although it does sort of suggest turf maybe. But she is a half sibling to both Forever Unbridled and Unbridled Forever, who, yes, they are 2 different horses. Nice horses. Both won a ton of money, a couple $100,000 each in stakes racing. So yeah, they're both. This horse I think should be able to handle the added ground. Saez has been riding lights out at Keeneland, and especially for Dallas Stewart, I kind of expect that to continue here. Looks like she kind of missed the break in her last 2, but if Saez can get her out of the gate earlier and get her involved a little earlier here, she's one that I also find interesting. But yeah, those are kind of the 2 that I like the most. With I don't know what to do with the favorite really.
So I saw Mark start to laugh as soon as you said the 3. I'll just mention that the 3 is also my top pick. So I'm guessing that Mark also agrees that the 3 is
probably the 3 was also my top pick, mainly on the fact that this horse has no turf pedigree, and they finally went, oh hey, maybe we should put this horse on dirt and should be able to run all day. A lot to like here in a race that's terrible. I actually like the 8 quite a bit as well. Favorite's usable, but I would want to fade the favorite at anywhere near that price. So yeah, Caleb and I are on the same exact 3 horses. So yeah, nothing exciting to say here.
Brian,
what do you have me to say? We all hate the 5. Well, you got to use the 5. So I'm going to go, contrarian again, because throw the 5 out. 6-5 morning line. But I think come post time, being Kentucky, the 3 is going to be your favorite in this race. I think it's a bad morning line. I think the smart money is going to hit it. And, Mark and Caleb will be right. However, let's change it up. 2 races ago, I said somebody was going to have a great smart ride. And one of these races, I'm going to be right with Corey, and he's going to improve off of his 10% win percentage last year at Churchill Downs. And the 4, I do like the way the fours started off. Okay, as a 2-year-old on turf, at Ellis, not exactly lights out, but a nice performance. Corey was on. I don't know what Robbie was doing at Keeneland. The horse might have been just outmatched. This could be the kind of race where, you see in that last race for the 4 waiting on William, Queen Bourbon finished 3rd. The 4 had no interest. Queen Bourbon's in this race again. I've always liked when horses go against each other a second time. Sometimes they flip flop and you just get surprised. If you're going to try and spread and you say, okay, I'm going to throw Queen Bourbon out, maybe the 4 is a price you look at, should be close enough to the pace. I think that the 2 is a plotter who's not going to be there. So maybe you do something like 8 and 3, and you have the 4 and 6 sitting as B's as if you're playing a horizontal or something different. I'm just babbling to sound different from you guys.
I did want to actually bring up the 6. What do you guys think of the 6? I mean, the 6 is a $1 million horse that apparently they tried on the turf last time out. Even though, Caleb, can you please tell me the top and bottom breeding on that horse?
If they put this horse on turf last time, Union Rags over Bernardini. That's the worst turf pedigree. You couldn't hand create a worse turf horse than that. Like, I'm surprised she didn't just step on the turf and just burst into flames. Like, that's just, I mean, it's no wonder the horse ran dead fucking last. I mean, yeah, I don't know what they were doing. Belmont, just give that $1 million piece of horse flesh to me, and I couldn't do any worse.
Yeah, the horse made sense. I thought from a breeding perspective, and I mean, it was a big purchase, but Mark, I'm guessing you're
way too slow. I mean, obviously, I would, first time out, I always throw a little bit of an asterisk there. Horses tend to improve a lot of first starts, nervous, whatever. Then they make them move forward. But man, that horse needs to improve a ton to be a player here.
Yeah, and then and just because we're talking about breeding on the opposite end of the spectrum, take a look at the 7. English Channel over Galileo, and they're running this on dirt. So I mean, it's other people's money, right? So I guess like whatever, do what you want with your money, but you might as well. I mean, that's like negative dirt pedigree there. So, but I mean, what do I know, right?
Let's be honest. The horse was claimed for 15,000, right? And now they're sitting here running for 115,000, hoping to get 3rd and get a check.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure whoever claimed this horse probably thought they got the fucking steal of the century with a Galileo horse, and they're running it at Turfway Park. So I'm just like,
my guess is that somebody claimed that as a broodmare prospect. That would be my guess, because that is a hell of a sexy pedigree, and that's somebody you want to breed to. So that's probably was the intent there. We'll run this one a few times, see if we can collect it. At least have a breaker maiden, because that looks good. And but their reason to put Aaron made a special weight company is to they don't want to lose her.
The bad thing is this might be the kind of horse that can break a maiden at the little boutique Kentucky Downs kind of meet. This spot feels too sharp for her.
John Massey actually asking a good question, Mark. I don't know if you got Formulator up. Maybe you can run something. He's asking about Galileo horses winning in the U.S.
In the U.S.? Yeah, I know they win in the U.S. I mean, that's but I'm sure. Let me see if I can pull something up.
And Jeffrey is asking if we might have mentioned this, and will they be off the turf on Saturday? My guess is that it's probably like 50-50 that they're off. Mark is a little more confident than I am, but I don't know. We'll see if they get that whole half inch of rain and they want to baby the turf course for another couple days. But I think they only have like 2 or 3 races carded. If anything, maybe they do what's some of the other tracks do, and maybe they just run the stakes race on the turf. I mean, I know it's not like a huge stakes race, but yeah, that's what John Massey just said. He said race 7 off and the stakes on. Yeah, that probably makes sense. You get anything, Mark?
No, it's a little hard for me to pull that stat. Give me a few more here.
Gotcha. Yeah, but we'll go ahead and we'll start looking here at this race. It's the William Walker here, 150K, 5.5 furlongs on the turf. Some of my favorite races, turf sprints, and you have the return of the horse that was running on the wrong surface, Cowan. He's going to be 7-2 here on the morning line. He's going to be your morning line favorite. If he actually runs, did he scratch last time out? No, he's just coming back, right? Yeah, I'm thinking of a different horse. I think I'm thinking of what's it, Fire at Will, who ended up. No, he did run. Shit, I don't know who I'm thinking of, but yeah, Cowan's back. From a 10th place over there in the UAE. So coming back, he's going to be sprinting here again. I don't know. I tend to not like these kinds of horses coming back from overseas. But there was a horse in here that I don't know if this is just another time form miracle, but I see a horse in this race, Caleb.
You're going to go to the 5? Let me get you going to the 5.
Yeah, I'm going to the 5 because that 5, both of the 5's turf sprints probably win this race. I mean, they're both really, really nice numbers. I mean, the horse is 15-1 on the morning line. Like, are you freaking kidding me? There's got to be something wrong here. But the thing is like, this is looking at time form. When you look at some of these other, when you like look on Brisnet, like the 5 doesn't jump off the page whatsoever. I mean, the 4 is technically faster. The 3 is faster, but I mean, we probably just go through the entire field, but man, the 5 looks pretty freaking good on time form. So he's my top pick in this race. And I'll probably use a little bit of Cowan, but I think that's all I'm going to use here.
Yeah, I agree with you on your 5, Josh. It's also kind of interesting to see this horse. They've been trying to get this one back on turf for a while now. Got rained off 3 times in a row at Fairgrounds. Finally broke its maiden on one of those rained off races. They finally got him on turf at Keeneland and fired a pretty good effort on the long layoff. I mean, I guess it's not a super long layoff, but and it was a good enough effort that Flo decides to hop up here, which I would imagine means this one's very well meant. 15-1 on the morning line on a horse that's the fastest horse on time form figs. Yeah, I was very interested in the 5 here.
I mean, I can only hope that we get the same treatment that we got at Keeneland, where for some reason like these fastest turf horses just don't get bet. Because there's been a couple of them that I feel like we've seen over the past couple of weeks. What do you think, Brian?
Of course, don't mind me. Had a little problem with my PPs there, but
I do like a pill for that.
They do, and I'm getting close to the age of needing it. So, besides that, I'm going to poke a hole in your 5. While it does jump off the page, the Amos barn has been pretty cold. I don't have the stats right in front of me, but been watching a few of his horses running, and he hasn't gotten to the winner's circle from what I can recall. I know Mark's probably got a formulator sitting there. He's going to prove me wrong here in a minute. But, with that being said, he normally places his horses so well, and this feels like a great spot. Part of me was wondering, 3 weeks after the last running at Keeneland, is the 5 really wanting to run here? I'm not really sure. I'm not going to question that barn. It's just at 15-1. I'm wondering why, right? Is it just a bad morning line? What are we looking at? So me, obviously Cowan's probably, that's like Josh, you said it perfectly. The horse is coming back from overseas. This is the kind of horse you can usually fade, right? You've got one workout since February that we know of. Horse has been sitting overseas, traveling. That is a lot. now I think 2 weeks ago that I saw a report somebody shared on Twitter that, shipping a horse has the effect of like 2 workouts on that horse. So who knows what kind of form or mental condition this horse is actually in. At 7-2, I'm probably going to take a lot of money. I'll play against the 8 completely. And with that being said, I'm going to look towards the outside at the 10, looking for Loki. Obviously, it's not the kind of horse you'd say, "Oh, I want to play this horse on turf," but slowly progressing, this horse has. I'm looking at time form. 3 wins in 10 starts. 1-for-1 at Churchill on the turf. And I like the progression that we've seen since, the horse debuted last year at Ellis. And it's just slowly and methodical. And if I had thoroughgraphs in front of me, I'd probably like it even better at this point. So that's kind of where I'm ending up, is looking for Loki. I'm going to bet Mitch, get rich, because that's obviously the slogan there. And then, the other one I think you have to look at if you're going to say, okay, I want to look at the pedigree for the turf, whatever you want, is I think the 2 is going to take a lot of money. Next, Velasquez riding for Ward. It's a 3-year-old, so not really Ward's wheelhouse, but it is a sprint. And so, the horse didn't look well in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, but this is a big step down from that class, obviously, considering Essential Quality and Hot Rod Charlie. So when this horse was 2, they thought it was going to be good enough to come back this year in the Derby. So the 2 is probably going to take a lot of money and might run really well. The workouts are solid. Just, it'll be interesting to see how the money floats in this big field if it stays on the turf. This one also feels kind of wide open, which is, one of the reasons when we started the show, I said I like Churchill, because the races are wide open. You probably have 5 horses you can make a solid argument for here.
Caleb.
Yeah, so we've talked to this one a lot, so I won't add too much. I think this is a good spot to play against Cowan off the return back from Dubai and all the different kinds of races he's been in. I just think he might need a race. I do like the 5, of course, based off of that last speed fig on the turf. This is the kind of horse with dirty form that you like to bet. 4 of the last 5 getting washed off the turf. His turf fig was strong on time form. The hot pace in that race kind of flattered him on time form, which isn't represented in Brisnet. The thing that bothers me about the 5 is that Tom Amoss has been horrible lately. At least at Oaklawn, he's like 4% right now at Oaklawn. I think he's 4 for, I don't know, or maybe he's like 3 for 60 or something. He's something horrible at Oaklawn, like for a guy that's a 25% guy year round. So I don't know what's going on with his barn, but I got a hard time betting anything out of his barn right now. I also agree the 2 looks good. Wes Ward is kind of the opposite end of that spectrum. For as cold as Tom Amoss has been, I think Wesley Ward was winning like 35% at the Keeneland meet or something stupid. And it's not even just with his babies. He's getting older horses to win as well. And then the one I thought was interesting that we haven't talked about was the 2 more. The 4 and the 7, I liked them both. Just briefly, the 7 I actually really liked in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. Nobody was going to beat Golden Pal, but this horse I liked coming in, and then didn't really run all that well, and then came back and flashed speed and faded. Like maybe the horse needed a race after the layoff. I'm not really sure, but at 8-1, I could be interested in that horse for sure. And then the 4, similar to Josh, I'm a big Corrales fan. I think he's always an underrated guy. And he gets up here for a horse that has he likes the turf sprints, and he's been able to come from off the pace at Gulfstream in a couple of those sprints, which is really not easy to do on those 5 furlong turf dashes. So I think the extra 16th he gets today will make a big difference for him. And I think he might get overlooked on the board a little bit. So that's another one that I think is interesting. So I'll probably be using some combination of 2, 4, 5, and 7.
And John Massey also likes Bodenheimer here as well. I know you just mentioned it. You were saying, Mark?
Yeah, I was gonna say I like Bodenheimer as well. That's the other horse I had as an A. I had the 5 and the 7 as an A, and I would probably use the 8 as a B just on the Dubai bounce factor. The thing I will say about Imo is I pulled some numbers on him. It's a little hard for me to get sort of what he's been in like last 60 or last 90. He is 2 for 44 at Oaklawn, and he is a similar stat. He's like 1 for 20 at Keeneland or something like that. But he has a bunch of wins at places like Delta. So he is still keeping his numbers high, but he's shipping to real Bush League tracks to do so. So is it just the better quality horses in his barn are not doing well, or is he cycling his barn through, or who knows? But yeah, I would tend to agree with what you guys are saying.
Hey, I might have missed it. Did nobody like the one?
I did not. It feels like I've been burned by the other Wesley Ward before, but this almost feels like it's tied. His one turf race was terrible. His dirt races weren't a whole hell of a lot better. I had a hard time going there, especially with the rail. I can't get there, but I mean, especially at 9-2, I'd probably need 12-1 to even consider it.
I mean, look at his breeding. I mean, he's a classic distance horse, so right into mischief on top. So
I'm just looking back, at the horse has shown some speed, and John Massey just said speed on a softer turf. Is it possible that Drayden gets a nice trip on this horse? It might be worth talking about.
Is that horse a need the lead type that's just not going to get the lead in here? I mean, that 5.5 furlong turf race was terrible. Arguably was on the lead every step of the way in the maiden breaker at Belmont, and ever since then seems to. I mean, okay, that Corrales race at Churchill, but it doesn't. I don't know. This one I don't think is going to get that lead trip. It's going to have a rail trip as well, which is going to just be more difficult. And this isn't the kind of horse. Yeah, it's the other Ward, but it's not the kind of horse that I want to bet at anything close to 9-2. I think like what Caleb said, sort of 10-1, 12-1 range, the horse would suddenly be interesting. But I couldn't put any money through this one.
Oh, makes sense, and that's just something I was thinking about. I think the 11 probably ends up being on the lead from the outside, or the 2. So I thought the same thing. I just it was one of those things. I think the horse is going to take a lot of money. So does that?
Well, I'm happy the horse takes money, because to me that's money I want that horse to take. And again, if the horse was going to be on the lead or just off, yeah, totally. But there's a lot of outside drawn speed here. So, the other thing I will say, we talked about Bodenheimer a few times. Bodenheimer is one of the horses in here that has actually beat Cohen straight up. So, I don't know if you talk about the company you keep, but I thought that moved up Bodenheimer, who's, I guess there were just were pricier horses that I thought were more interesting than that one who probably takes money on connections alone without having any actual form to back it up.
Yeah, and he said John Massey saying Bodenheimer with single-digit odds versus Golden Pal in the juvenile sprints. So they did think a lot of Bodenheimer in that juvenile sprint. So
yeah, I had money going through Bodenheimer. I actually really liked Bodenheimer in that race. So, and I think Bodenheimer had legitimate excuses, bobbled really badly coming out of the gate. So he had some, in a race that was won off the front end where Keeneland the turf was crazy speed favoring. I think he lost all chance at the break there, and definitely a horse at 8-1 I'll give an extra shot to, or another chance.
Can I ask a dumb question before we move on? I know we've beat this race to death, but talking about Cohen coming back from overseas, Asmussen puts Luis aboard. I only see him having paired up 4 times in the last year. He's never ridden Cohen before.
Yeah, as he did it in Maidan.
Oh, was it?
He was on the horse in Maidan.
Oh crap. Well, then never mind. Okay.
No, I know where you're going, Brian. It sort of is, hot jock, and is there a reason that Sayers is there? Yeah, and agreed. I just, the Dubai bounce works so often that I tend to just sort of, I wouldn't hard fade the horse. I wouldn't toss the horse, but I think the horse, becomes a B on that alone. And also, quite honestly, if you look at time form, Cohen's turf races aren't as impressive as a bunch of others in here.
Right. And I was going to go with the hot jock angle. I was going to go with it didn't really make sense to me. I forgot. I didn't realize he rode him overseas. My note was off a little bit there. So I saw Rosario on him, and then I just assumed. So my fault.
Yep.
I did want to get to a couple of questions that Elliot had brought up. He did bring up a question. I know we talked about the Derby a little bit earlier before, but he brought up a question about the Kentucky Derby fundamentally being about speed or stamina. And I kind of feel like maybe lately, like with the lack of like sprinters kind of like weaseling their way into the Derby, I kind of feel like it has been more about speed, don't you think?
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I think ever since they went to the new point system, and if people don't remember prior to points, it was based on graded stakes earnings. So a lot of these horses that would get into the Derby, they would go like win the Super Derby down at I think it's down in Louisiana, and which is like a 6 furlong race, and they would get them enough winnings to get in the Kentucky Derby. So you'd have 3 to 4 of these speedballs that would set up a crazy pace and really set up the closers. And ever since the Derby point system has taken away all the points from the 2-year-old races that aren't the Breeders' Cup Juvie, you've now seen where all the winners since then, literally every one of them have been within a length or two of the lead the entire race. So there has not been a big, closers haven't really been getting there. So it's been less of a stamina race, and it's been more that EEP type positional speed horses. This is from what I say.
I mean, I would just say, the PC lame answer is that it's a combination, right? Like you see distance limited horses routinely just, not get the distance, oftentimes in the preps actually. But Mark's completely right. Since they went to the point system, speed is good. And it's not that the track necessarily favors speed. It's just that if you can be ahead of 15 horses, that means there's only 4 horses that can possibly get in your way or cause you to have a bad trip. It's tough, and the mind that birds are pretty rare, and it's very hard to work out a trip from far off the pace in the 20-horse field. So I don't think speed's an advantage because the track plays to speed. I just think it's more or less a function of trips more than anything else.
I mean, there's no easier trip than being on the lead, right?
Yeah, shortest way around the racetrack is on the lead and on the rail.
Brian, you got any thoughts?
No, they hit on it. I was saving my response to the next question.
Are you talking about the breakdowns in New York?
I am.
Although today wasn't really breakdowns, because I think all the horses got out okay, right? It was just like, I don't know, it was just weird. I don't know if everyone was just like, what was going on? Like, there were 3 separate incidents I saw that were just like insane. One was that box that was just like chilling in like the one path. And, Jose's horse just like freaked and tossed Jose because he saw the box in front of him. So I have no idea how that happens. The second was that just like insane spill where you just saw like horses going everywhere. And I don't know what happened there, but as far as I know, all the horses were fine. I think
all the horses were fine, and all the jocks were fine as well. Junior was cleared after an MRI. He was the one that you literally see him come off the horse, and like 3 horses kick him, and he goes like spinning off into the infield. He got kicked hard enough that he like spun like a top. Probably the scariest accident I've ever seen. I honestly, with them running the stretcher out there, I thought he was either killed or severely injured. And his agent put out a note and said, yeah, he's fine. So
yeah, I think they're just like putting him in a concussion protocol or whatever, like just checking to make sure he doesn't have a concussion. The scarier one I thought was like the 2-horse. Was it? It wasn't Vargas. Who was that? Pablo Fragoso. I think he was on it, and it looked like he fell over with the horse. Like it was just the craziest thing I'd ever seen. Yeah. And then literally like the next race, the next turf race, the 5 like stumbles out of the gate and just freaking tosses the jock there too. And it was just like it was. I don't know. It was like it looked like amateur hour. It was crazy. I'd never seen anything like that at a big name track like maybe one of those events in a day, but just like the 3 of them in the same day was just kind of crazy.
A couple of them were in turf races, and all of them looked like sort of slidey, slippery incidents. I'm wondering if that turf course hasn't been run over yet this meet, and we've gotten some rain, and it was snowing here last evening. New York City didn't get the snow, but it was very cold and rainy. Just wondering if the turf is really slippery, and maybe that top layer is sloughing. So as horses are running, they're just breaking free. I've seen that happen. I actually saw a similar situation at Keeneland in a Breeders' Cup probably 5 or 8 years ago. So,
Brian, did you have something there?
Yeah, it wasn't so much about what happened today. It was more along the lines of the whole topic of, why there are so many horse breakdowns in New York. And, last year was the second most since the most since 2010 that New York had for fatalities in the track. And there's a lot to be said about, I think the comment Elliot made was about the unethical trainers. I'm not so sure it's the unethical trainers as much as it may or may not be unethical breeding. Now, it may not be a very popular comment, but a lot of these horses are not ran long. They retire at 3 or 4 years old. First small problem in a career. How many times do you see a horse go to the barn for 4 months and never come back? Hey, country house. So the thing I've got is these horses aren't running. They're not being proven to run for years. A lot of times on a Thursday afternoon, what you're going to see is that 5 or 6 year old horse who may be the first 6-year-old horse out of his daddy to race, because the other ones have broken down or been retired. And it's a thinning of the, I don't want to say thinning of the herd, but it's a thinning of quality breeding the further you get away from the sires. And we're seeing that now, I think. And a lot of what we talk about, Lasix is doing this and Lasix is doing that. I think it's a combination of the drug usage by the trainers, that we've been accustomed to in the North American racing, and then the breeding lines being watered down to the point they are now. For us to get this back, it feels like we need to do a hard 180, both, on what they expect from horses and the breeding situation, as well as what the drug usage is. I don't agree with cutting Lasix out 100% immediately. I think they should have weaned horses off. I think, bloodlines and things need to get stronger again, but that's just my own opinion.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you, Brian. I mean, if you look at the sires, the hot sires, the violences and the constitutions of the world that are horses I don't think ever ran a race as a 3-year-old, and yet they're super hot sires because they're go fast early pedigrees, and go fast early pedigrees are very, very, quote unquote sexy. People want that return on investment really quickly, so they're breeding to those horses. And you look at horses like somebody like a Flower Alley, who got sent to Japan because Americans didn't want a classic distance horse pedigree that was one that was a late bloomer, and he's now one of the mainstays of the Japanese horse breeding industry. So we've bred to cheap speed, we've bred in a direction to have fragile horses, and this is what's going to happen.
If I can redirect, a lot of people will point to Europe and what they do in Europe, and they say, oh, they don't run on Lasix. They also run on turf primarily. They don't rely on dirt the way we do here. It's a different animal in North America, and it's just I'm curious to see what happens in the future with this whole commission and horse racing commission, if they're actually going to make changes, or it's going to be more of the same, brother-in-law appointed commissioner kind of thing.
I think also, if you talk European racing, the style of the races is very different. Yes, it's on turf, but also early pace is very slow, and then it's a sprint home. So instead of a long 2-minute sustained hard effort, it's a very short sprinting turn of foot type hard effort, which, I've seen, information both ways, but, in my way of thinking, that would be a little less damaging, beat you up a little less.
I think John Massey brings up a good point, and this is something that he's talking about too many speed rats and younger horses going slower and longer early. And it makes me think of two trainers, right? Two trainers specifically, right? Now, I know Wesley Ward does have a lot of success, turf sprinting, or just on the turf in general, sending horses to Ascot, like great. I know he has success there. He has a couple of horses that run well into their 4, 5, 6-year-old year. I mean, I forgot, how old is Bound for Nowhere? It's a
9
horse, right?
Yeah.
9. Yeah. But it's a horse that's 9-year-old that's only run like 10 times.
Yeah. So, okay. But, think about all those Wesley Ward horses that win those 4.5 furlong sprints, right? How many of them do you really hear about after their 2-year-old season? Right,
At Mountaineer on a Thursday night.
What about the California's got the same problem with Mr. Luis Mendez. Luis Mendez runs all those 2-year-olds and wins a fair amount of 2-year-old horses. But when's the last time you remember a Luis Mendez horse at 3 or 4?
Well, that's kind of, to be fair, that's kind of what he does. I mean, he trains 2-year-old horses that typically get privately acquired to other barns once they turn 3. That's kind of like his shtick, is kind of to, train these juveniles, unlike Wesley Ward, who actually does have a barn that goes beyond 2-year-olds. But I get what you're saying nonetheless.
I guess I can't think of a horse that left the Mendez barn at 3 that had any kind of success, but I also don't follow California racing that closely. So maybe, like you said, maybe I'm just not seeing it. But yeah, it's a real good point. Like maybe we need to just get rid of the 4.5 races and just start at 5.5 and start them a month or 2 later. I mean, because at least 5.5 gets run, right? At least 5.5 gets run. Like, when does 4.5 ever get run again?
Yeah, Massey's saying John Hancock is the same in Kentucky, and that is very true.
Well, let me ask you a question. We're 10 days from the Kentucky Derby. What did you think of the 2020 Kentucky Derby? Did you think it was competitive and fair across the board?
I mean,
more or less so because of the time of year.
Yes. And I say that because those horses were almost 4-year-olds, right?
If anything, it was probably more fair because you got to think that any, May, June, or any like May or April foals, had more of a chance over their January and February counterparts. So,
and outside of King Guillermo, what horses pulled out of the Derby trail a month, 6 weeks before the Derby? I can't think of any right now. And here we are in April, and we've lost, the top 3 favorites from out west to training
but
injuries.
Also a very different year because most of the meets that the preps were on were canceled. So when you have no prep racing and you have none of the Derby preps in the spring, does that inherently mean those horses just aren't in training and the trainers are putting them aside? They're quality horses, and I don't know. I understand where you're going. Did we inherently develop those horses later and therefore they're going to run more? Are you? But you're trying to put Authentic on a pedestal here? I mean, because I don't know if that's what I really want to do.
No, but the thing is, Authentic. Like if the Derby was run in the normal time frame, Authentic wouldn't have won, 100%. So
agreed. I wouldn't put Authentic on a pedestal at all.
I mean, if anything, Tis the Law probably would have won. I mean, Tis the Law peaked early, and it just everyone kind of caught up to him. I mean, it's the same thing that happens to these 2-year-olds, right? You get these 2-year-olds who freak early, and then everyone just kind of catches up to them. And it's the same thing. The same thing just happened at 3. And if anything, I think running the Derby that late, I mean, gave more horses an opportunity to be in their top form for that race. At the same time, it also gave them more time to get injured, as we saw with.
But also those horses didn't have the ability to get points to get into those races. So I understand where Brian's going, but I think it was such an aberrant that it's a hard year to really base anything around.
Just it's fun discussion. There's a lot of
totally.
A lot of opinions there, and I think at the end of the day, it all does go back to breeding, and the breeders are the ones making the money here from the lines, right?
It's also there's a combination of things, right? Obviously, we know there are unscrupulous trainers out there. We know the breeding industry is speed early in the United States, but also somebody's buying these horses and paying stupid fees for them in auction. So if owners stop buying cheap speed types, go fast early types, and we're buying more classic, sturdier horses that were more classically bred, then the breeding industry would transition away. So I mean, I have a hard time asserting blame on any one force. I think there's a lot of blame to go around here.
Sorry, Josh. Blame off there.
Blame was by Arch, right?
Yes, by Arch. Yes.
There you go, Josh.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, now we're talking about Into Mischief being a possible future, like, huge Kentucky Derby sire, and his foals usually only go a mile. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's just all of a sudden, they're getting better mares and they're getting a distance from there, or if just pedigree everywhere is shrinking. And all of a sudden, if you can get a mile, you can get the mile and a quarter, which wasn't always the prevailing thought. But we got one race left to go. We got about 5 minutes, and it's an allowance race. Optional claiming, but Timeform's got it marked as an allowance. And it's a field of 9. Looks to be not a lot of speed in this race. Your morning line favorite is the 2 Lady Rocket at 3-1. But I mean, if you look at Timeform, man, that 4 looks like he might get or she might get a little loose out there. So I was a little interested in this 4 'cause I'm edgy. For Colby Hernandez and Kelly Rubley. Looks to be possibly lone speed out here. So I figured, take a shot in this horse, especially going 6 furlongs at Churchill. This horse seemed to make a lot of sense. But the other horses I was interested in were going to be all these outside horses. In the 5, the 5 She Can't Sing, the 7 Aunt Nadine, and the 8 Bareness. Bareness is probably the class of this field, but is coming off a pretty long layoff, and kind of a disappointing run there in the Kentucky Oak. But Barron, for the most part, has been putting out sprinters, so I think the cutback will be good for her. So the way I kind of had it was the 4, 5, 7, 8 here, and I was going to fade that short price 2 Lady Rocket and the 3 Tipsy Gal here. But how did you see this, Brian?
I think the 2 is the most logical winner. Lady Rocket, Brad Cox. I mean, Brad Cox been red hot lately, and things were just going right in his barn. 3-1 morning line. I think it's going to be a lot shorter than that. 6-5 even money kind of thing. I love to be contrarian. I have a hard time doing so in this race. I'll be honest. If I was going to look for, you mentioned the 4 might get loose. I could see that happening. This is the kind of race where, admittedly, I didn't look at it long before we got on, and I'm trying to find real quick a horse that might be a price, and I keep going back to the 5. She Can't Sing. Brian Hernandez Jr. Horse could sit right off the pace, might be solid enough. Very odd turf to dirt type movement, has happened a few times. It's the horse that you say, okay, what are they trying to do? What are they looking for? They don't know. The horse doesn't know. This horse could just fire at a nice price. But I do think the 2 is kind of the horse that you just get on and go with.
Caleb.
Yeah, so it's funny because I feel like every race that Brian likes a favorite or dislikes a favorite, I'm the complete opposite. I see no reason why this 2 should even really be the favorite here. 1-2 races, in the middle part of her 3-year-old season, and then, 3-year-old season, and then kind of looks like just didn't really improve at all into her 4-year-old season, and I'm just not interested in betting that horse. And truthfully, I'm not even sure that horse will be the favorite. I think that a horse like the 8, Byroness, probably takes some money. If you look at who she's been running against, I mean, She Dares the Devil, Swiss Skydiver, Gamine, Four Graces, Edgeway. I mean, those are all Grade 1 winners. So maybe this is a prep. I mean, maybe. But she did win her maiden at first asking, so clearly she fires fresh. I think she's probably the likeliest winner if she's even 80% of the way cranked. And I do think that she probably ends up being your favorite here, is my guess anyway. Other than her, I do agree with Josh about the 7 and the 4. I kind of went back and forth on this 4 horse because I do love me some lone speed, but I do hate me some Mid-Atlantic garbage horses that come out of Laurel. So at 15-1, I like this horse, but if this horse would get bet down to 6 or 8-1, I'd probably be a lot less keen to use her. But I do think she probably gets loose early anyway. The only other horse I kind of used that Josh hasn't covered was the 1, Sterling Miss, simply because this horse loves to win. I mean, 10 for 27 lifetime, 2 for 3 at Churchill. 9 for 8 over a fast track. If you toss the off track efforts, now if they get this rain they're talking about and it's sloppy, then I would certainly not be as high on this horse as I am now. But 10-1 on a horse who clearly fits at this level, is the most accomplished horse in the field, and repeatedly likes to win at this distance, at this surface, and at this track. I'm pretty interested in this horse at 10-1 for sure, as long as the trap comes up fast.
Go,
Mark.
Chalk, go.
Yeah, I would say I pretty much agree with kind of the horses you guys well landed on here. The only other one I would mention is this one Sterling Miss. Horse for course, 2 for 3 across the surface, 10 for 27 lifetime. Horse really likes to win. If they go a bit early, or and there's a bit of pace on in here, which I think there's a pretty good chance that they're cranking pretty good early. I think Sterling Miss could really pick up the pieces late at a bit of a price. It's actually a horse that I expected Brian would have sort of landed on, because he does tend to like have these contrarian pace plays. So but I thought it was a horse that was quite a bit interesting with his boy Lannery up.
Mark, I didn't think there was enough early pace to get to the one. Time Form's got the one pretty far back, and I don't think there's enough pace for her to get there. I'd be more along the lines to go with Josh, and that this 4 maybe gets loose and is a chance of inexpensive velocity for us.
I think the 4 is fast enough. That horse has stopped a lot, and stopped a lot as lone loose speed.
I don't think he's fast enough. I just think that.
Well, I mean, can you get brave on the front end?
Probably not, right? But are you going to have a pace battle? I don't think so on paper. So where does the one get up from? That's kind of that was my thought process. There is words.
So you're thinking Colby is controlling pace, sets fractions he wants, and those just aren't going to be fast enough for the one. Okay, I can understand that. Yeah.
Kind of what I'm looking at. If you look at Time Form, I think you're looking at the second or third flight there. Probably a 5-horse race. Everybody, trying to sit a pocket trip. We're beating this race up, so the 2 or the 3 probably walk.
I mean, I think if I play this, I'll probably play this late pick 5, but I will, I'm gonna be pretty skinny through it with singling in that first race, and navigating a couple of. I think both the turf races I'll be pretty skinny in, and see if we can get through it. But this weekend is just everybody's saving everything for next week and the next couple weeks coming up, because you got Derby, and then you get if they still run Man of War the week after Derby. I'm not sure if they're going to or not. I haven't looked at the stake schedule yet, but there's usually a pretty good stakes card for Belmont the week after the Derby, and then you get Preakness, and so I think everyone's just saving their horses for the next couple weeks. So not too much going on this weekend, but we'll be around Discord, and we're gonna have a lot of content next week. We'll have the two days of streams. I know the podcast has not run the past couple weeks. Chase and I have had some real bad scheduling miscues here, with both of us falling asleep at just inopportune times. So we're going to try and get that going again, and maybe get a couple guests for that as well. We'll have a couple things going there. But I don't know, Mark. Anything else to add for this weekend?
Yeah, the only thing is, if you're interested, ping me on Twitter or on Discord. We are going to have a group ticket that's going to be chasing the 2-day pick 6, the $2 base one for Oaks and Derby Day, and that I already have a pretty good group of people, fairly good chunk of cash throwing at it already. Working with Evil Bob Dole on getting that structure, and also Writer Dave on getting that structure together. And so $20 increments, and as many as you're comfortable with. It's a good fun time. You'll probably learn a lot about handicapping process, about structuring process, and it's fun to have some friends to root on for a big score with.
Brian.
So with that being said, Josh and I are offering an opportunity to pick every horse that Mark and Ryder Dave and Evil Bob will throw out. $2 increments. We're going to be very narrow, because they're going to throw out like 4 horses total. So we're
we have
looking pretty.
Evil Abdul. He loves the chalk, so we may be throwing out a
That is
lot.
true. Evil Bob Dole does love him some chalk.
So that means our ticket will have every bomb in the Derby. Looking forward to that. So no,
I think-
I'm completely kidding. Do not send Josh or me $2.
No, do not. I think I forgot what I had said originally. I think I had said that myself, Caleb, Brian, and Chase were going to put together a competing ticket with all the horses that owe us money. And I think Capone said that, man, that's going to be a fucking big ticket.
We do take donations.
I do think Jakarta's running the Pat Day Mile, right?
Oh no, get out of here with Jakarta. I'm not going to bet that horse again until the next time I see the horse run. But
Somebody save that clip for me, would you? We're going to need that soon.
oh my god. But yeah, Caleb, what about this weekend besides sleep?
Yeah, I don't think anything excites me this weekend. Like I said, I haven't really looked at anything. Keeneland closes Friday, which is kind of weird, so I guess they're done. I will not be playing Churchill pretty much at all. Probably look at some Oaklawn, maybe do some Golden Hour pick 4. I mean, if you're not already betting the Golden Hour pick 4 and the Golden Hour doubles, like, you definitely get on that. They pay so well, even with pretty logical outcomes, just with $1 min or $5 min for the double, and then a low takeout. So I always try to throw a ticket in there as long as I have a chance to handicap.
Hey, since you mentioned that real quick, sorry, Josh. Golden Gate's got a great field Saturday. If you like the synthetic, I mean, lots of non-graded stakes races. Golden Gate is probably going to have some nice fields. They got a $250,000 turf race. You know, that should be a good card. Sorry, I just figured I'd throw that out there since Border Town in Ohio are running again.
Oh my god.
John Massey apparently is pissed off at the race that I wanted to talk about last week, that everybody said the favorite would win and then the favorite didn't win. And,
Oh,
So
no.
pretty much like every Thistle Downs match ever.
Yeah, and Jeffrey's like, at least, and you'll know Wong will win at least one race. You see, Jay is just a man after my own heart. Fauner pick 5 carry over 110,000.
I don't know. I feel like we should join the social media movement of saving a horse that's running for 3,500 at Fauner.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I dug to my couch. I found $10. If anybody's interested,
we keeping it in your backyard or mine? Which one?
Your backyard. I mean, unless it's allergic to bees, that's got to come to Indiana.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be playing that Golden Hour again, even though like I hit that double last weekend for like $330, but I think I'm still down in that bet because it's just like I've been so close on that pick 4, but what happened?
I want Caleb to look at Golden Gate race 7 for Saturday.
Why is that?
Holy shit.
Are all of them running? Are all of his friends running?
Look at them all. Red Lark, Giddy, Altia. They're all there.
Tia's barks. Don't put that one on me.
The over 12 horse at 8.5 on the turf, and let's stay there.
Isn't Altia like 2 for 25 and a refugee, the Chad Brown barn?
Yeah, 2 for 26 and is now in the McCarthy barn.
Red Lark, Altia.
Wow.
G, yeah.
But
Colonel,
honestly, that's a great
Colonel
Saturday.
Creed. I don't know that one. But actually, I saw Casa Creed is running somewhere and looks to be like second or third choice, and jumps off the page in that race. I forgot where he's running, but I was just looking through some races, and Casa Creed's running somewhere and is just like the best horse it looked like by a mile, and was like a square price. So keep an eye on that this weekend. I forgot where it was. Is it Keeneland tomorrow? Maybe. Might be Keeneland tomorrow, but yeah, I'll probably just be playing the Golden Hour, and Saturday's my birthday, so I don't know how much I'm going to be playing anyways. So I might just put some stuff in and be done. But yeah. Belmont on Saturday. That's where it was. Yeah, I saw Costa Creed was running somewhere. Belmont, because I was trying to look at what other races were like worth looking at.
Does Casa Creed also owe you money? Is that one of the?
I believe Costa Creed does owe me money.
It looks like you get a Chad Brown late pick 3 at Belmont on Saturday. Yes, you can. If you like looking at bikinis.
Who doesn't?
Yeah. All right. Well, that's gonna be it for us. We're on the wrong lead. You can catch us at ontherwronglead.com. Buy a T-shirt. Sign up for AM Wager with our link in our YouTube thing. You got our Twitter handles here. I'm at Cherry Drank. Mark is at 2 Turns. Brian at BD Horseplayer. Caleb's at Caleb WVU. Catch the Wolf at Of Oak Lawn. He just got his second COVID shot today, and it took him out. So he was going to make his triumphant return, and once again got sidelined this time by the COVID shot. So hopefully we'll have him well rested for next week with beard stroking and just like ridiculous references that no one gets in hip hop. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for us, and we will catch you guys later.